Out with the old and in with the new. Replacing a kart seat for the first time. Here we go. The position of the seat is really important to the handling and flex of the kart. You'll want to get into your current seat and get a sense of whether you'd like it a little further back or a little more forward. Weight distribution is a pretty big part of that. Usually you want to aim for something like a 43-57 split. In my case, the left-right balance is actually really good, but I need to push it back just a little bit. You can check out my other video on scaling your kart if you've never done that before. Your kart manufacturer will have a recommended position for your seat, but it only applies for like an average sized driver with the factory seat. So it's really a starting point to finding what works best for you. I found the most important measurement to be the length from the front rail of your chassis to the front edge of the side of the seat. Here I'm measuring my old seat position as a baseline to make sure I put the new one in the right place. It turns out I have an 8mm difference between the two sides. I believe that's normal to offset the weight of the engine. I'll be aiming for 5mm, but I think anything between 5 and 10 is going to be fine. The other thing to check is the position of your seat when you're looking at it directly from above. In my case, the old one is slightly back of the midpoint of the frame, and I'm going to put the new one in lined up with the back. I also measured kingpin to the top of the seat and top of the seat to the axle, but I didn't find those measurements useful because my seat has a different angle than the factory one. So next we need to remove the old seat. There's no trick here, but I'd suggest as you go, keep the stack of bolts, washers, spacers, and nuts together so you don't lose track of all the pieces. Once you've got the seat removed, you need to put in something flat to align the new seat to the bottom of your frame. That works pretty well for adults, but if you have a lighter driver, you may want to use some kind of spacer to raise the seat up a little bit. You can use anything that's flat and straight, a 2x4, plywood. I made my life a little bit harder with this larger sheet because it was heavy enough the back was sagging, so I needed to use a few more clamps. Check to make sure it's perfectly level with your frame, and then you're ready to install. They do sell specialized jigs for doing this, but they're, $100, which is kind of expensive for a one-time use. You can put some weight in the seat so it sits flat and doesn't move. If you don't have weights, you can use a hammer or whatever you've got. Set the seat in roughly the position you want, and then fine-tune it using the measuring tape. You want the angle of your seat struts to perfectly match the angle of your seat. Otherwise, you might create a bind. Here, the left side needs to be pulled out a few degrees. You can use a wrench and yank on it, or use a mallet, whatever you prefer. And after a little bit of bending, the fit is almost perfect. I noticed there was a little bit of raw metal and rust on the strut, so I used a little WD-40 and elbow grease to clean it all off. I bought a can of protective spray paint that's a pretty close match to my kart. I find the satin sheen works pretty well for most frames. A quick coat on both sides will get the job done. It's going to be hidden under the bolts anyways. After letting the paint dry, it's time to mark the mounting holes for drilling. Try as best you can to mark the holes right in the middle. One way to check your work is to use a flashlight and look at where your hole is marked from the other side. And if you manage to screw it up like I did, do it again. When you're ready, use a 5/16 inch or 8mm drill bit and drill your hole. Here I'm using a weight to hold the seat steady. I also sanded off the burrs so the hole would be nice and clean. Same thing on the other side, and you can see the two black dots on the left where I screwed up my mark. I'm using the $20 Tillett mount kit, although they also sell an ultra low profile kit that's around $100. On the seat side you have the bolt and a conical washer, and on the outside you have a large flat washer and a nylock nut. The flat washer should slip in easily without causing a bind. And here's what it looks like before you've tightened it down. Same thing on the other side. So now with the two seat struts attached, this is your last chance to make any last-minute adjustments. If you're happy, you can drill the holes for your remaining seat struts. Most people have either 2 or 3. And same thing to install the bolts. I think I might have reused the flat washers from the old seat. For now, you can leave things a little bit loose. We'll tighten everything up at the end. At this point, the seat is fully positioned, and we can get rid of the wood that was holding it in place. The last 2 holes are at the bottom of the seat, and as you can see, the angle is quite a bit off. I started by using a crescent wrench to bend the tab, but I ended up switching to a pipe wrench to get a little more leverage. You can see I got the spacing just about perfect, and I switched to a smaller spacer. Leave the spacer in as a guide for your drill bit. Same thing to install the mounting bolts. And this is what it looks like from the other side. You can use your hex wrench to line everything up so it's easier to push the bolt through. And now it's finally time to tighten everything down snug, not crazy tight. With your seat fully mounted, you'll want to scale the kart and get your lead mounted in the right place. And this is the seat when I was done. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more videos like this.